Claude just got a massive update, but nobody is talking about it. Anthropic just released 13 new plugins, turning Claude into a specialist at 13 different job functions. However, most people still don't know this exists or how to use them. So in this video, I'm gonna break down exactly what these plugins are, how to set them up, where you can find them, and at the end, I will show you 2 business use cases so you know exactly how this works in practice. And in case we haven't met, my name is Joe. I'm an ex-senior manager in big tech. I scaled my own agency to 6 figures, helping more than 50 businesses transition to AI. So with that aside, get comfortable and let's dive straight in. For those of you who are new to the space, let me just give a 2 seconds overview on what is the difference between Claude and Claude Co-Work, right? Because we're gonna use Claude Co-Work for this. Claude basically is our chatbot, right? So we know it's an interface that we're gonna chat with and it's gonna answer back to us. We can use it for brainstorming, for discussions. However, it's not going to perform any action for us. When we go into Claude Co-Work, here we're basically talking with our personal assistant. And what does this mean? This means that this assistant, being an assistant, will be able to perform tasks for us. May it be sending emails, checking our file, reading our documents, right? It will have a variety of tasks that it can perform for us. So in a nutshell, what is Claude Co-Work? Claude Co-Work is your assistant that can read your file, and we are going to be able to access specific files within our laptop and computer and go through them, SOPs, and so on and so forth. It will be able to access softwares, meaning it will integrate with tools that we're currently using in our day-to-day, may it be the Notion, the Gmail, Slack, and so on. And it can actually perform tasks for us, right? So it doesn't just answer question, but it execute real tasks, like reorganize that folder, rename that file, send that email, and so on. So now the question is, but what are plugins? So imagine it like this. Before we had these plugins available, which are simply things that we can, plug into our Claude Co-Work, every time you wanted to perform anything, you had to set up manually everything that you wanted to do, create very detailed prompt that you would use to initialize your Claude and your chatbot, and then eventually you would start building from scratch each time, starting from a new conversation, right? After we actually plug these plugins in our Claude Co-Work, we obtain within and we inherit specific tools, prompt, and instruction that these plugins actually already contain. So we know that this plugin, if it's a marketing assistant, it will have access to, a specific tool, like a specific dashboard or your specific Slack channel, or some instruction to go there, some prompts that will tell what a marketing assistant does and how it should be behaving, and etc. An instruction which may it be, okay, these report function for that reason. And these are also custom instruction that you can give to your plugin in order to make it more compliant with the function that you are trying to automate. So in our case here, we can make the example as mentioned of the marketing assistant. But then more into details, what are the plugins and how are they different from skills, if you already know what skills are, right? So a plugin contains 3 things in its inside. So the component of the plugin are actually 3. A skills, which basically means that skills are something inside the plugin, then commands, and then connectors. So skills is basically knowledge that Claude uses automatically without your input. Imagine like a recipe that you can give a chef, like Claude is the chef in this specific example, and we tell the chef, hey, follow this to make the most amazing pizza on the planet. Okay? And without us telling, hey, take the tomato, take the mozzarella, etc., Claude will be able to follow these instructions step by step. And it will know every time that it has to produce a pizza that we actually need to start from taking the right dough, then having tomatoes, and so on and so forth. So the important part is that skills are automatically triggered, right? So it's these markdown files, these instructions that are automatically triggered. When we talk about commands, here we talk about something a little bit different, because commands are triggered on purpose, right? And in our example, maybe later we see it, but a command starts with a forward slash, and it can be something that you can write like this, right? So forward slash start will allow us to start one of our commands, and we will see that each plugin has these command very detailed already in Claude, so we know exactly what it is that we need to call according to the business use case that we're going to be facing. And lastly, we have the connectors. And as mentioned, the connectors is simply the ability that Claude has to connect with your existing tools. So an example is, I want to connect to Slack, I want to connect to Gmail, I want to connect to Teams, right? And so on. What is the very interesting part here? That connectors are not hard-coded, right? So what does it mean? It means that we don't have stored credentials hard-coded there, and therefore it means that we can't remove the plugin, right? But it's very dynamic and it will just require a couple of adjustments. So what does it mean in practice? That imagine that today we're using Microsoft Teams and tomorrow our teams move to Slack. We don't have to fully change everything. We will just unplug the Microsoft Teams and we will just plug in the Slack connector, and all of the rest will be taken care autonomously and automatically from Claude. So just before we go into practice and we actually do these things in Claude Code, why is this relevant? Because I want you to think about plugins in a way that initially you start having, I don't know, a CRM. So I don't know, the automation / marketing team. Then you have a program manager. Then you have someone like a personal assistant that takes care of this. Then you have sales. Then you have, I don't know, HR with a lot of documents, CVs, files, finance, and programs, right? So as you can understand, this can be your, I don't know, ClickUp. This is your Gmail. This is, I don't know, maybe ClickUp again or Notion. This is Microsoft Power BI. This is Google Docs, right? So you have a ton of different platforms that you need to interact with and you are interacting with on a daily basis. After we start, or disruption that these plugins bring is that now the only thing that you will have to do is to actually talk to Claude in natural language, right? So the thing is that we go from a million platforms all connected that we all have to use on a daily basis, fortunately, unfortunately, to just one. So this is pretty disruptive because now Claude becomes the brain for everything. So with that said, let's go in Claude Code for desktop and actually open it and start playing around with it. So once you open Claude for desktop, you know that this is the interface that you're going to be greeted with. Now you will not see it. Actually, let me see if I can quickly do this. But right here at the very top, you will have three things, right? You have a chat, you have Co-Work, and you have code. So what we're going to be using for this is Co-Work. So we are going to go here and then we're going to make this like this. Now, where can we find the plugins and how can we use them? So if you press the plus button right here, inside here, you will find plugins, right? And you can go either add a plugin or manage plugins, right? So we start from scratch, so we add them. Now, this is a very important part because this is what Anthropic developed and it was what I was talking about before. And this is the one that you actually have. So we already understand that we don't only have Anthropic's plugin, but we also have the possibility of having our own. So let's now go quickly through the Anthropic ones and then we can expand later on. So as you can see, here we have a variety of business use cases. So from productivity to sales, enterprise, legal, finance, marketing, customer support, and all of these are amazing. So how are you going to use it? You're going to use it like, let's take an example on product management or actually customer support or even marketing. Let's go market. And we press install, right? Now, once we pressed install, we can see that this turned into manage. So it means that it is actually installed. And then we have productivity and then we have sales. And now what we're going to do is we're simply going to press manage because I want to show you exactly what it is that we just discussed, and because you will find it straight away. So once you go here, you can see that you have the marketing plugin, which is already enabled, right? And as we were mentioning here, we have a lot of questions that we can ask Claude Co-Work, right? So it's draft a blog, plan a multi multi-campaign, whatever, review content, analyze competitors, and etc. Now here, you now see why we talked about commands before, connectors, and skills, because these is exactly what you're going to find inside the plugin. So we see that these commands are actually things, and as you saw before, we have a forward slash, and then we have something that we actually type. And we know that if we want to use the brand review or campaign plan or competitive brief, like we have specific things that we can call, right? And just by typing these, then everything else will happen in our interface, and we're going to use it real quick. Now, connectors is exactly what we were mentioning before. So it's predetermined connection that there are already pre-installed in these connectors so that you can connect with all of these services, right? If I'm going to go in the sales plugin, you can clearly see that I have different connectors that are predisposed from the Anthropic team in this case and so on, right? So, and you notice that the only thing that I have to do actually, if I wanted to install any, is simply to go and press install, right? So once I do this, then it would be super simple. Then I connect, and then you would go through the initial interface, and then you simply connect it. Now, when it comes to skills, again, here it's what we were discussing before. So this is the recipe that we feed to Claude Co-Work in order to make sure that it's actually doing the right things in the things that we actually want. So here it's brand voice skills. So this is a framework for documenting, applying, and enforcing brand voice and style guidelines across marketing content. So here we will have all of the things that are like mentioned, and basically these skills will allow us to have a consistent brand voice across our. Now let's make an example of how we're going to use it, right? So the way you're going to use it is so simple, because you can even call it like this, right? So now also, by the way, if you go here, you don't remember, you just go on plugins and you see that it's on marketing, right? So how I can see is, hey, I will now paste or attach actually a document that more or less describe my business. It's a mockup. So I want you to use it, and I want you to use those information and use the marketing plugin. This is a demo, and I want to show everyone how this plugin actually works, doing something in practice. So please use that document to produce something business useful. And if you don't have those information, feel free to use mockup data. So while I do this, I also go into Plus, and I also add a file or a document. And then here I have my business profile PDF, which is basically, long story short, a little bit of what I do. It's with mockup data, mockup services. I put a little bit of what I do in my coaching program. I put a random price. I put some automation for AI voice that I have random prices also. So I'm just gonna feed Claude Co-Work with enough context to see how actually Claude works when I feed it business data. So what I want to do is a content bundle, actually a campaign plan. I want to make a sponsorship about my service. So let's see, campaign plan. Let me fire up the marketing campaign planning skill with your business profile. So as you can see clearly, this will be customized, right? And now we simply wait that these tasks will be performed, and we look at the output, and then we use another plugin. So in the meantime that this actually is performed, let's run another plugin so we make sure that we have both of them running at the same time. So we are parallelizing. So let's go here and let's try and see, okay, the sales plugin. Hey, I want you to use the sale plugin, and I want you to, first of all, tell me what it is that you can actually do with this plugin. And this is just for my reference. And then I would like you to use mockup data to show me the full potential of the plugin, and if you can create also any dashboard. This is a demo, so please don't ask questions, just do it. Perfect. So now, as you can see, and this is the power in general of Claude Co-Work or agents in general, here you have your possibility of having more than one instance of Claude working in parallel, right? And we know then that whenever one of these two finishes, we will be notified, and then we will be able to see the outcome. And once this is done, I will show you what these both give us. Just for you to see, I want you to take a look at this checklist right here. It's just a quick thing that I wanted to show you, because here you also have a way to check what is the progress that Claude Co-Work has versus your task. So here you can also see top level, what is the thinking process in terms of subtasks that Claude Co-Work is actually doing in order to perform whatever it is that you're asking it. All right, so So first plugin finished. This is the campaign brief. So you see that here we have scale, description, campaign overview, target audience. Okay, side hustler, perfect. It tried to identify what my target audience is, what are the pain points. I think these pain points are very true, by the way. Nice one. Key messages, channel strategy. You see it even identified, by the way, knowing my conversation before that I have a YouTube, I have a LinkedIn. Here it made up that I have a newsletter with the email conversion, WhatsApp community. Yeah, but this is for other stuff. It's for the LinkedIn offer. Okay, content calendar. It even gave you like something interactive to play around with, right? Content assets. Like you see how deep it can go. And think about it this way. The more you give data to this, right, the more this will be customized to your own business. And this is actually, you can see it as a very, very solid foundation that you can go either to a business and start selling these things for, right? Because now the ability is not to simply use the plugin, right? But is to generate all of the documentation in a way that the LLM will give you the result that you want. Or if you are a business owner, your ability will be in actually crafting those documents, right, in a way that these things will actually work for you. Now, let's go back to the other one. And this is our forecast demo for Q1 2026, rep Alex Chen, region, and etc. Again, mockup data. And you can see that here you have some quota, best case, likely case, and worst case scenario. So it even made some analysis for us. Pipeline stage, and what is your value, and etc. Commit versus upside, all open deals, and close date, last activity, account, amount, stage. So it even included all of the data in your CRM, right? So you now can understand the power of having these connection happening. Then you have risk flags, then gap analysis, and recommendations. So you can clearly understand how powerful these things that are pre-made from the Anthropic team already are. We now go back to our Co-Work interface, and one of the questions that is natural now is, okay, but these are pre-made like plugins. How can I customize them if I don't like them? Well, that's a great question. So we go back here, we go back into plugins, and we do manage plugins, right? And now what we can do is actually going into, I don't know, our marketing plugin, and then right here, you will be able to see the customize button, right? So right here, we can take a pre-made plugin and go and customize it. So here we would be seeing something of the sort of customize the marketing plugin for me based on my company. And imagine here that we are going to say, hey, my company does X, Y, and Z. I don't do coaching. I do, I don't know, brick and mortar. And what it does is that you simply press enter, and this will customize the plugin for you. Just like you would teach a different skills, you will teach different stuff, right? So this is how you can customize your stuff. Maybe you don't like the voice. Maybe you don't like the way it wrote, the font, the colors. You just change all of that, right? But now the real interesting question comes, because we understand that the most amount of value for a business is to actually build their own plugin that then they're able to connect to Claude Co-Work, right? So custom things. And how do we do that? We go on plus, we go on plugins, we go on add plugin, right? We go on personal, and we press plus, right? And you can see right here, and this is very interesting, that we have quite a way to either upload our own plugin or to import some other plugins, right? So URLs, plugins is nothing more than a zip file, right? We're gonna create one together. But then let's do some examples. So I don't want to create my own yet, but I have mine, but they are on GitHub. So how do I do it? Add from GitHub Marketplace, and here you have a URL. So let me run you through an actual example. You're gonna go into your GitHub. I took this one, which is the official plugins of Anthropic, right? And you copy everything that is after the github.com. So in our case, Anthropic/Claude plugins official. And we are gonna go like this, and you can just simply press sync. And the way it works is that now, as you can see from here, my number of plugin drastically increased, right? I imported all of those inside the GitHub repository. Now, we know actually that we can add it to the marketplace with the URL, or we can upload the things with a zip file. I don't think there is any business value in seeing this. But now let's try and see how we can actually make one. So in order to build our plugin, once again, and just to get familiar with this, we're just gonna go here, plugins, manage plugins. But now right here, you will see that you have the option of creating personal plugins, right? So we're gonna press it right here, and I have the chance of create with Claude. So what I'm gonna say is, help me create a new Co-Work plugin that does something very nice. I don't have a lot of interesting ideas right now. I'm just trying to run a demo. So come up with fancy ideas on things that we could be building that are useful for a business. Please choose between your ideas on which one is the best and give me the output once you are done with it. Now, this is a silly example. However, if you have a plugin that you want to create specifically for your marketing functions or for your sales function, you should just describe it right in natural language. And an example could be, let's imagine that you are receiving phone calls like, hey, I want to create a plugin that takes the transcript of my phone call, then analyzes them, then what are the pain points recurrent that a prospect is continuously, I don't know, telling me. And I also want to find a way in order to understand if I have any chance to improve my script based on these pain points. And you're gonna feed the sales script, and then eventually you're gonna have something extremely completed, right? So this is exactly how the process of creation works. What this did is now it's going to create an executive briefing kit. So the plugin will have two commands, briefing and decision demo. And eventually we're going to try one of those. So create a structured decision demo, situation, option, and recommendation and risks, just to see how this works and to have the full example working end to end. Perfect. So everything seems to be created. So let's try these examples. So decision memo, and the topic is coffee meeting. Okay, so everything seemed to be working. We're just gonna press here save. I already did it. We're gonna press /, and if I press now you see that here I have decision memo. You press it, and then here you're gonna press a topic. I don't know, sales call with Jack. Use mockup data. And now we will see what this actually does. As you can see right here, this is how, and here we are with the last one. And here we can see our decision memo, pricing tier for Acme Corp deal, whatever this is. If there is any company that's called like this, no idea. And then anyway, background, options, recommendation, risks and mitigation, Joe sends Jack growth tier proposal, etc., etc., etc. All right, so with this, you actually have a full overview of what plugins actually are and how you can use them in your business. If you are a 9-to-5er that says, hey, okay, I get these things, but how can I actually make money from it? I left the first link down below, which is the link to my one-on-one mentorship program that I have for anyone interested in selling AI services to businesses. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, check this video right here.